Jussie Smollett, that's the actor best known for his work on Fox's Empire, he received his sentence yesterday for lying to police, making up the idea that there was a hate crime in January 2019. Cook County Judge in Illinois gave him a 6-figure restitution, probation, and a fine, in addition to 150 days in jail. And that jail sentence is exactly what his family, friends, and advocates did not want for him. And there are things about this case that you may remember. So Smollett had claimed that 2 assailants targeted him on a frigid Chicago night for being Black and gay, beat him, put a rope around his neck, splashed him with a liquid chemical, which I believe is bleach, and told him this is MAGA country, referring to former President Trump's campaign slogan of Make America Great Again. The charges against the actor, they were initially dismissed, but Smollett was indicted again last year, and he was subsequently found guilty in December on 5 felony counts of disorderly conduct for lying to police. I know you are there in Chicago, Rayvon. What is it that really stood out to you about this case?
Well, I think one of the things that really stood out to me was first the prosecutor's argument that he deserves a really high sentencing because he, hurt actual victims of hate crimes, which is true because we see all these MAGA chuds repeatedly over and over point to Jussie Smollett and say, "There's no real racism." I know that because he had to invent this. So that part was true, but the idea that justifies giving him a very high sentence to me is absurd, just under most or almost all the theories of punishment. But the cruelty almost with which he was sentenced by the judge stood out to me. Primarily putting him in Cook County Jail, as a high-profile celebrity who is also a gay man, and it's just. No one wants to go to 26 and Cal, as it's known here in Chicago. It has a horrible reputation. But as someone who is such a high-profile figure, who had such a highly publicized case, it just seems cruel and unsafe. So watching him in court say that, if I die, I didn't kill myself, it makes sense that he would be horrifically frightened to go to 26 and Cal, just given the reputation it has and knowing that he is going to be a target, also because he has the ire of law enforcement, and I'm sorry, I don't think that if he's in danger in prison that the COs are going to be quick to respond to it. I really don't.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance here, and Adrian's going to get into a little bit of that in a second too, but I think he should go to prison. And I don't think this was overly harsh. Now that should be separated from, well, then why don't white collar criminals go to that same prison? No, that's super frustrating. It's fair to point out that disparity, and I would send every white collar criminal to that prison. I don't know why they get special privilege. And here's a Black guy who is a celebrity and famous and normally would go to a country club prison, but is not. And is he more in danger, especially because the cops hate him and potentially that could mean that the COs are not gonna help him? Yes. Are our prisons a national nightmare to begin with? Yes. None of them are safe. It's absurd. They allow rampant violence and sexual assault. It's totally madness. So I view that as a separate issue. But he did do it, guys. I mean, I know it's politicized, right? They had originally dropped the charges, but the reason that they brought him back is because it was a high-profile case. The fact that he was a celebrity hurt him, which is unusual. Normally, being a celebrity helps you because you're wealthy, etc. But there's a reason for that. The reason is you want to set an example, and you want to set an example when people are paying attention. So if somebody makes up an awful crime against them, etc., and nobody sees it, it has less impact in terms of deterrence, etc., than if it's a high-profile one. That's why they should have gone after the bankers in 2008, and they were cowards, and they didn't. And so I get, the disparate treatment at times, but the jury clearly thought he did this crime. They convicted him, and it is a crime, and it is problematic. and I think it hurts all minorities, and so I'm not sure that I think it's that unjust. Okay, Adrian, but give me more thoughts, nuance, etc.
Okay, so everybody always says, it hurts people who are victims of true hate crimes. I absolutely disagree. I say that in part because the system wasn't here for us to begin with. The system discounted us to begin with, just like sexual assault survivors and people who come forward about rape. It ain't gonna change because 2% of rapes are false, made up. Just because of that 2 to 5% doesn't change how the system responds to us, and it won't change how the system responds to hate crimes when it comes to Jussie Smollett making this up. Also, there's something going on with Jussie Smollett. The fact that he's either putting on the best performance of his life or he has something scrambled and it's all messed up, but that man will not drop his innocence, and it is very strange. And I just am very concerned for his safety. I do see the fact that there's so much disparity here in terms of how individuals are treated for this particular crime, this disorderly conduct. The general sentence would be probation. So why are we straying from that? I get that the judge felt that there were aggravating factors. I get that, but what would you do if he was white? And I do not believe that the judge would have rendered the exact same sentence. And I'm afraid that this could be a death sentence for him in going to this facility, that they are going to change. They're gonna change every aspect of his being to the point where I don't know if he's gonna make it out. And he has a target on his back. And I think that that is the biggest problem, that everyone in that courtroom knew that, and they still said, go ahead and go that direction. As though lying to police isn't something that so many people have done, particularly up in Chicago, where they have the biggest corruption problem known to man and have for decades. It speaks to the fact that the system will often punish you for lying about a hate crime more than it'll punish you for committing one. And I am so incredibly tired of that. But something that was interesting to see is essentially how Jussie Smollett had so much support. At the hearing, Reverend Jesse Jackson submitted a letter in favor of him, actor Samuel L. Jackson as well, Alfred Woodard, actor, and even the Illinois Innocence Project and Black Lives Matter submitted letters in his favor, pleading not to send him to prison because they know exactly what will happen to him. They all urged the judge to reconsider, and also so did his counsel immediately after it was announced that he was going to prison for 150 days. There was also many legal experts interviewed in the lead up to Smollett's sentencing predicted he'd serve no jail time. The amount of attention that Smollett's case commanded, orchestrated at least somewhat openly by Smollett, who appeared on Good Morning America soon after the attack. He alleged, and before he was hit with felony charges for his alleged hoax, should not be confused with its severity, which is largely theoretical and opaque. But instead of going with a more lenient sentence, the judge monologued at Smollett for around 40 minutes at the end of a nearly 6-hour hearing. Judge James Linn scolded Smollett, calling him profoundly arrogant and selfish, a charlatan pretending to be a victim of a hate crime, and accusing him of throwing a national pity party for yourself. The judge said Smollett had stolen resources from legitimate cases, creating a heater that demanded precedence over other unsolved crimes. Linn also delivered his own theory as to why Smollett may have hatched his scheme. The only thing I can find is you really craved the attention and you really wanted to get the attention that you were so invested in issues of social justice. You knew this was a country that was slowly trying to heal past injustices and current injustices, and you took some scabs off some healing wounds and you ripped them apart for one reason. You wanted to make yourself more famous, and for a while it worked. I will say that interestingly enough, it shows you the judge is completely disconnected with our society if he thought that there were healing wounds. This was December 2019, before George Floyd. So the fact that everything that came out as a response to that will tell you that we were bubbling over. There were no healing scabs. Yeah. But we know that on his show this morning, Charlemagne the God pointed out the double standard in the sentencing. Watch this.
All right, well, he was sentenced to 150 days in jail and 30 months probation.
That is wild that he got more time than people who raided the Capitol building on January 6th.
He should go to jail for that, though.
Like 6 months is wild.
And they feel that he should pay the money back for police, resources.
I feel like the fine could have been enough, but once again, like I always tell y'all on this radio, I cannot tell somebody how to react to my actions. I can't pick and choose, the consequences. But I think it's very wild that he got more time than people on January 6th.
I have said enough, so I will tee it up to you all. Cenk?
Yeah, I'm curious Rayvona's point of view too here, and you guys as well. Audience is split on this, but mainly on Adrian's side. Tina said, "I've never disagreed with Cenk more. Tell it, Adrian." Warlock said that they agree more with me because the idea here that he's saying the same thing that I did, which is, should you also punish white criminals in the same way? Of course. But was it a crime? Yes, definitely. Was Smollett arrogant and he did it to gain more fame? Yes, I find that sickening. And he's willing to throw all of us under a bus. So, I hear what you're saying, Adrian, and I know a lot of different communities react in different ways, and no one speaks for any one community. But as a Muslim, we've had our share of hate crimes too, and I don't appreciate some jackass who's already incredibly wealthy saying, "Well, I'd like to be a little bit wealthier and I'd like to be a little bit more famous, so I'm going to make something up, and I'm going to make some percentage of people disbelieve innocent people who get this kind of treatment." So. And Mickey C. the Silver Dragon makes a good point about a point actually that was made on Indisputable. I agree that Smollett deserves to be punished. He said, as Dr. Ritchie pointed out, Amy Cooper, the Central Park Karen, who also made a false assault call, was never charged. The act she put on with her second call, pretending to sound terrified, should have had her arrested. See, that's a great point by Rashad that our member there is recounting. It's an absolute outrage that she was not charged. Just like Smollett, it was a fake call to the police, and that actually endangered someone's life. She should have gotten a year in prison. But that doesn't mean, in my opinion, that Smollett should be let off. Oh, he was, okay, so can a celebrity who's gonna be endangered because of a certain situation do anything they want because, they'll be in danger? But can we fix our goddamn prisons so people stop getting assaulted there? So there's a lot of injustice in this country, but in my opinion, as you can tell, I don't think any of that means that in this case, that he shouldn't have gone to prison at all. Rayvana, thoughts?
Yeah, I also just want to talk a little bit about one other sort of motivating factor in his sentencing that the judge kept referencing, which was the amount of money that the police had spent investigating his case and the amount of money that this trial was cost to the judicial system. It really seems to me like the judge was very angry at him for wasting all this money. And that sort of played into his decision to sentence him, very highly, which to me, as someone who lives in Chicago, is hilarious considering how much absolute waste that the Chicago Police Department has every single year. The massive amounts of money that CPD has to pay out for abusing civilians here and all of their heinous crimes. And then also, I know, Cenk, you mentioned deterrence as a motivation to put him in prison. And I agree that when it comes to like financial crimes and Wall Street and all of how they contributed to the financial crash, I think that's a really valid argument. I just don't necessarily see it being applicable here because are we trying to deter other people from filing false hate crime reports? It's not something that happens that often. Are we trying to specifically deter Jussie Smollett from doing it in the future? I really don't think that's an option for him. His life has been kind of ruined by all of this. I mean, his career is over regardless of if they prosecuted him, regardless of if they sentenced him. I just don't necessarily think that that's like a one-to-one comparison, but I do think that a deterrence argument is particularly valid when it comes to those types of Wall Street financial crimes.
I think deterrence. Go ahead, Adrian.
Go ahead. Oh, I'd say for deterrence, at least from my education on the issue, that it's based on the certainty, severity, and swiftness of the punishment. And the fact is that they're trying to ensure the certainty here, but it damn sure wasn't swift as we're 2 years out. But the severity is there. But it just, I don't think it'll work because white people continue to watch individuals like them get away with making these falsified reports. And as black people, we always were trying to deter it anyways because we figured we were screwed no matter what, whether we did it or not. So it's like, who are you really trying to deter? I really just see this, and I'm not a fan at all of what Jussie Smollett did. And generally, I'm like, punish people. But again, I just see this sentence as entirely disproportionate, and I see this going down poorly.
Okay, last thing here, guys. So, look, I'll give Mikey 3343. He's writing in our super chat the last word here because this is the one thing that really unifies us. He wrote in, all the Karens who lie to weaponize the police against people of color go to prison, right? So so from my point of view, deterrence works if you, for all the reasons, if you do it the way that Adrian explained, but also if it's applied evenly. I think that lying to the police is a very serious crime. And by the way, right-wingers lie to the police all the time. There's a thing called swatting. Well, they'll pretend a progressive is in the middle of a crime and they'll send the SWAT team out there and it could get people killed. By the way, no one ever gets charged on that, ever. So that's terrorism and they get let off completely on that. All those Karens that lied, and Rashad is right, especially the Central Park one. It's a spectacular case that was very public, like Smollett's case was. You could have set an example there. But when you apply it just to Smollett, but you don't apply it to the others, well, the lesson that you're sending is, remember, at the end of the day, you could still do whatever you want if you're a white right-winger. You could lie to the police ad nauseum. You could endanger people's lives, be in a way that is far more serious than what Smollett did, and you'll get away with it. Because in America, if you're a white right-winger, this whole country is set up for your benefit, and so it's disgusting that they get away with breaking the law over and over again. So that's the thing that unifies us, whether we agree or disagree on whether Smollett should have gone to prison or not. What we all definitely want is equal application of the law, and we still haven't found it in this country. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.